Hi, I'm your big brother in recovery, Abraham, coming back to you with another educational video, hopefully that will add some value to you in your pursuit of recovery. If this is the first time on this channel, please by all means subscribe, click the like button, the thumbs up, and please allow us to update you on all the new stuff that we're about to do. We're planning on doing some really exciting things besides the Sobriety Society International Challenge that hundreds of you, thank you so much, hundreds of you took advantage of and said that you want it, and I'm here to give it to you today. All right, so look, as we often say, without further ado, what I like to do is fulfill my end of the deal. Since you requested it and took advantage of the opportunity, I'm going to take you through the Sobriety Society International Challenge, which is to take you through all the 12 steps in depth. So, because right now we're still dealing with Corona. There are a lot of people, including myself, who are still quarantined, who are doing meetings on Zoom, and this is just a companion tool to what you're currently doing, and you can watch these at your leisure, okay? But I challenge you, don't believe nothing I say. Did you hear that disclaimer? Don't believe nothing I say, but go back, research it for yourself in your big book, and guess what? You'll have a greater appreciation for what I'm sharing with you. All right? So, without further ado, let's take a close, in-depth look at step one. Now, we already know that step one says that we admitted we were powerless and that our lives have become unmanageable. Powerless over alcohol. In this context, that's what we're talking about. But if you are addicted to any other substance, you can fill in the blank. You admitted you were powerless over, fill in the blank. Your life has become unmanageable. In other words, the thing that you are influenced by, you have lost complete control over yourself as a result of being addicted to that thing. Now, let's look at what step one is really saying to us. If you recall when I did the series on how to read your big book, I talked about the doctor's opinion, and Bill's story pretty much tells you what the problem is. And we said, and you can go back and look at it, the problem is you're powerless. And as a result of being powerless, your life is unmanageable and or you are out of control. Now, let's look at something. We're going to look at a couple of things. Recovery, if you don't know it, is really two words: surrender and acceptance. Yes, we know acceptance is the key to all our problems, page 417, first paragraph. And if you look at the word surrender, the first time they mention the word surrender in the big book is on page 295, the second paragraph. And I'll tell you what it says. Why don't you just go there right quick. Page 295, the second paragraph. And it says, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Well, let's start at the beginning of the second paragraph. The housewife who drank at home. At one time, the admission that I was and am an alcoholic meant shame, defeat, and failure to me. But in the light of the new understanding that I have found in AA, I have been able to interpret that defeat and that failure and that shame as seeds of victory. Because it was only through feeling defeat and feeling failure, the inability to cope with my life and with alcohol, that I was able to surrender, there it is, and accept. You remember we talked about acceptance? The fact that I had this disease and that I had to learn to live again without alcohol. Second place in the big book where the word disease is. You remember I told you it was found on page 64, and it considered it as a spiritual disease. There it is again, right? So we see both words, acceptance and surrender, or surrender and acceptance, which are the two words that are dominant in recovery, right here on page 295, the second paragraph. Also, if we wanted to synthesize those two words, recovery is broken down into one word, hope. Why? Bill said it best on page 17. Let's look at it. Let's look at page 17. And that chapter, if you notice, is entitled, There is a Solution. Notice, one solution. Why? One problem. Look at my videos about that. Let's read the first paragraph. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem. I don't know about you, but the first time I read that, it gave me tremendous amounts of hope, because guess what? It made me aware that not only was there a solution, but there was hope for my situation. I can go from hopeless to hope, from helpless to help. Now, let's dive deep into step one. Let's take a look at, even though I've done this video and it's entitled, How Did Bill W. Recover? I'm doing this for a reason, because teaching is nothing but increasing the learning of the one being taught. So in other words, teaching is repeating the same thing over and over again until learning takes place. Now, this may be a lengthy video, but I guarantee you it's going to add tremendous, tremendous value to you. Watch this. Let's look at how Bill took step one. Well, let's look at how Bill took the steps, first of all. We know that, or we should know, if we go to Roman numeral page 27, XXV, II, the doctor's opinion. The doctor writes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs down. Many years ago, one of the leading contributors to this book came under our care in this hospital, which was Towns. And while here, he acquired some ideas, plural, the ones he got from Ebby Thatcher, which he put into practical application. How soon? At once. So Bill took the steps at once, okay? We're gonna give you some special stuff this year, this week, this month, and I'm gonna share with you later what it's gonna be, but let's look at how Bill did this. He took the steps at once. Now watch this. Let's look at how Bill did step one. Go to page 8. Go to page 8. I'm gonna show you what Bill did, and I'm gonna lead you up to the steps to show you how you could take it. Let's look at the first paragraph on page 8. Bill says, no words can tell of the loneliness and despair I found in that bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. If you know anything about quicksand, the more you fight, the deeper you go down. I had met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. So you could fill in the blank. Whatever your drug of choice was, if you can say that it was your master, and you know you can't serve two masters, because you're going to hate one and love the other, or you're going to love one and hate the other, there seems to be a clear-cut description of Bill taking step one. Now, let's get going. I want to take you through the big book. Let the book do the talking. Because, see, it only takes, here's an Abrahamism, it only takes a day to learn how it works, but it takes a lifetime to practice it. That's the thing. Now, you know, it's been said often, numerous of times, that these steps are simple, right? But we complicate them. So now I want to take you to page 97. Page 97. Now, if you bear with me, you're going to get something out of this. 97. I like to draw your attention to the first paragraph, all right? First paragraph. Never avoid these responsibilities, but be sure you are doing the right thing if you assume them. Helping others is the foundation stone of our recovery. That's what we decided to do with this channel, because we realize when we help others, we help ourselves. When we give away what we have, what do we have? We have a solution. We found the solution. When we give that away, we are able to keep what we have because we no longer have the problem. As a matter of fact, the problem does not even exist for us no more. It has been removed. Now, you see that helping others is the foundation stone of our recovery. Now, I want to take you to Roman numeral page 13. That's an X and 3 eyes. X and 3 eyes. Let's look at it. Forward to the first edition. Now notice what it says. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Notice this. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered, ED, is the main purpose of this book. For them, meaning those who suffer from addiction, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. Now, if you look at your big book dictionary, that word authentication means no other proof will be necessary. So, as we continue to go, I'm going to just give you an overview, and then we're going to come to our conclusion. I would like for you to go with me to page 94. Page 94. We're talking about step 1, taking the Sobriety Society Challenge. It's my job as a sober person that offers newcomers suggestions on recovery. Put those acronyms together and you get the word sponsor. I'm showing you how I would sponsor a person, just like this, and how I have, right? Now, we go to page 94, first paragraph. It says, outline the program of action. That's step 3 through 12. Explaining how you made a self-appraisal, step 4. How you straighten out your past, step 5 through 11, and why you are now endeavoring to be helpful to him, 12, service. It is important for him to realize that your attempt to pass this on to him plays a vital part in your own recovery. Why? Because we can only keep what we have by giving it away. Actually, he may be helping you more than you're helping him. Make it plain, simple. He is under no obligation to you, that you hope only that he will try to help others, alcoholics, when he escapes his own difficulties, when he recovers. Suggest how important it is that he place the welfare of other people ahead of his own. Why? Because we go from self-seeking to God-seeking. Now, listen, I want you to continue to work with me. Now, let's go to page 29. We're going to do a lot of reading, but this is what it's about. It's about educating, not entertaining, right? Page 29. I'd like for you to take a look at the first paragraph. Further on, clear-cut directions are given showing how we recovered. Look at the bottom paragraph. We hope no one will consider these self-revealing accounts in bad taste. Our hope is that many alcoholic men and women, desperate in need, will see these pages, and we believe that it is only by fully disclosing ourselves and our problems that they will be persuaded to say, yes, I'm one of them too. I must have this thing. What is this thing? This thing is sobriety. Now, I've showed you that. I want to keep going because I don't want to waste your time. You can listen, rewind the tape, study with me. Go to page 59. Let's look at what step 1 says again, even though we should know it. Step 1 is found on page 59. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. Now notice something. Let's go to Roman numeral page 27, XXV 25, 26, 27, 28, XXV III. If you ever notice, I don't give war stories because guess what? I'm talking about the solution and not the problem. And that's what we should be doing as sponsors. Watch this. Second paragraph. Frothy emotional appeal seldomly suffices. The message which can interest and hold. These alcoholic people must have depth and weight. That's why I created a channel to teach and not to just do a bunch of group therapy. You can go back and look at what I shared with you. Now that you know the message has to have depth and weight, let's go to page 91. 91. Notice what it's going to say. Third paragraph. See your man alone. If possible, at first engage in general conversation, small talk. After a while, turn the talk to some phase of drinking. Notice what it's going to say next. Tell him enough about your drinking habits, symptoms, and experiences to encourage him to speak of himself. Go to page 92. Look at the top of the page. Tell him how baffled you were. You remember cunning, baffling, and powerful? How you finally learned that you were sick. You remember the alcoholic is a very sick individual? Give him an account of the struggles you made to stop. Show him the mental twists. You remember? Chronic, progressive, fatal. You remember? Mental obsession, physical craving, followed by an allergic reaction. The mental twist, which leads to the first drink of the spree. Normally the spree is one is too many now and 1,000 isn't enough. Now I want to show you what that's saying in the big book. Let's go to Roman numeral page 27, 5, 6, 28, I believe it is. 28. Roman numeral page 28. The doctor's opinion, talking about that spree. Now, we know, but I'm going to show it to you, but I drank for two reasons. One, because of childhood trauma. Number two, low self-esteem. But really, those two things combined, I drank because it made me feel good. Why? Because I didn't feel good about me. Let's look at that on the bottom of Roman numeral page 28. XXV 25, 26, 27, 28. Last paragraph. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. That's why. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious or bad for them, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false, meaning that's the best definition I've ever seen of insanity. I can no longer tell what's right from what's wrong. To them, meaning the alcoholic, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one, meaning my abnormal lifestyle has now become acceptable or normal to me. Talking about step one. They are restless, irritable, and discontent because you remember on page 133 in the first paragraph, it talks about we know that God's will for us is to be happy, joyous, and free. So that's on two sides of the spectrum. One is restless, irritable, and discontent. And after I recover, guess what? I realize that God's will for me is to be happy, joyous, and free. Unless they can again experience the sense and ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks which they see others taking with impunity, with no negative circumstances. In other words, I had a grandfather that drank for 30 years, and guess what? He went to work every day and never had a DUI. But that's him. I can't do it. After they have succumbed to the desire again, because guess what? The third tradition, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using, but now the desire to drink again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops. Remember, you can't crave something until you ingest it, because first you obsess before you crave. You think before you act, right? Then you feel, while you produce the result. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree, on a run now, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. I've done that several times. All my life, all my mama, I never do it again, drunk. Notice what it says. This is repeated over and over. Insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of their recovery. So in other words, watch this. If I don't transform my thinking, I will not transform my life. Now I'd like to take you to page 44. Turn to your big book, because now we're going to look at what alcoholism really is, because most people don't know it. If you looked at my videos, you'll know what it means. Page 44, first paragraph. Let's look at the whole paragraph. In the preceding chapters, you have learned something of alcoholism. That's if you read the 43 pages. We hope we have made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. That's what you should have learned in 43 pages. Now they're going to tell you what you should have learned. If, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking, you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably alcoholic. That sounds like 1 is too many and 1,000 isn't enough. That's real simple. Talking about step 1. Notice how they're going to describe alcoholism and or addiction. If that be the case, meaning 1 is too many and 1,000 isn't enough, you may be suffering from an illness, not a disease, which only a spiritual experience will conquer. So that coincides with what they told us, that they said that, watch this, unless a person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of their recovery, because only the spiritual experience will conquer the alcoholism or the addiction. Why? There's no chemical solution for your spiritual problem. Why am I stressing so much about these steps? Simply because, here's an Abrahamism. An alcoholic and or addict will walk 100 miles to get high, but won't take 12 steps to recover. And I have a problem with it, right? So let's keep it moving. Would you kindly go with me to page 22? I'm trying to give you a lot of information in a short period of time. Just go back, because the literature says it must have depth and weight. I'm just covering some key points to you to take a look at. Page 22, I want you to look at the first paragraph. This is by no means a comprehensive picture of the true alcoholic, or if they say the real alcoholic, as our behavior pattern varies. But this description should identify him roughly, meaning, guess what? 1 is too many, 1,000 isn't enough. He can't stop when he wants to. He asks himself 2 questions. Why I can't drink like I used to? Second question, why I can't stop now that I want to? Let's continue to go. Can we go to page 24 now? I'd like to show you why that is such a problem. It simply says in the first paragraph, the fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago, meaning he doesn't recall the last episode. Watch this. Simply because we are without defense against the first drink. So you ready for this? You on offense when you really need to be on defense. The great Bruce Lee said, I'm not afraid of the man that has 10,000 kicks. I'm afraid of the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks, or one kick 10,000 times. Now, I'd like to take you to page 30. Page 30, we are without defense against the first drink. Page 30 tells us that if you look, it says, most of us have been unwilling to admit we are real alcoholics. Talking about step one. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally, there's the physical and the mental that you recover from, different from his fellows. Therefore, that's there for a reason. It is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless or numerous vain attempts to prove we can drink like other people, but we know we can't. Because once we get started, we drink to get drunk. Notice what it's going to say. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession. Remember, an obsession is an idea that overrules every other idea of every abnormal drinker, not normal, addicted, abnormal. The persistence of this illusion, remember? Illusion, delusion, illusion, game they running on you, delusion, game you running on yourself, is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death, which is serious, right? Because you don't have to die in order to live. Now, let's continue to read our big book. Let's go to page 25. I'm just highlighting some things for you in this challenge, right? Notice what it says in the first sentence in the first paragraph, page 25. There is a solution. If you watch my video on that, A means there's one solution. Why? There's one problem. What is the solution? The solution is a spiritual experience. Remember page 44? And guess what the problem is? The problem is self, and it's found on page 62. Look at the second paragraph. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. If you look at the paragraph above that, the first paragraph, it simply says selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Notice root. That means the spiritual. Branch means the natural. You can cut the branch, but the tree will grow if you don't uproot it. Driven by 100 forms of fear, that's singular. Self-delusion, look at all those prefixes of self. Self-seeking and self-pity. So, self is the problem, spiritual experience is the solution. Now, there is a solution as we saw on page 25. Now I want to show you something on page 25 and 26 if you stay there. Look at the bottom of the page. If, because we don't know, you are as seriously alcoholic, what are the adjectives? Seriously. As we were, notice, we admitted we were. I used to be, I am no longer. Why? I have recovered and I have empowered, given power to empower others, page 132. We believe there is no middle of the road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible, and if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, that means your sponsor, the fellowship, me, you, and nobody that looks like us, because guess what? As I said before, there's no chemical solution for your spiritual problem. We had but two alternatives or two choices. Here they are in black and white. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could. That's denial, and that's not a river in Egypt. That's the inability to accept your reality that you are addicted. And the other, to accept spiritual help. This we did because we honestly wanted to. See, this is a program for people that want it, not need it. Everybody need it. Everybody doesn't want it. And we're willing. to make the effort. Why? Faith without works is dead. We know faith is the solution, step 2. But guess what? Works. Works is a verb. I have to do something in order to get something. Now, I like to draw your attention to Roman numeral page XXIX. Now, this is going to be interesting, what I'm going to show you. This is going to be interesting, and I'm going to explain it. And you're going to probably have to rewind this video, look at it with your support group, but it will make sense to you as I do this. Watch this. XXIX. On the other hand, first paragraph, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand. Guess who doesn't understand? The person that's just clean and never got sober, because guess what? Clean means entire abstinence. Sobriety comes after a educational process. Usually the first 9 steps help you recover. 10, 11, and 12 keep you recovered. So if you haven't gotten to 9, you don't understand, right? Understand what? Once a psychic change, there it goes again, has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, hopeless, remember? Who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, watch this, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple principles or a few simple rules. You remember at the beginning of the year, I gave you the goal. I showed you the 2 case studies, the 2 men, 1 goal, 1 plan, 1 year. Well, guess what? Notice I said easily recover. There it is. Now, those few simple rules are found on page 98. 98. And if you look at the second paragraph, right? The old boy's on file, right? 98, the second paragraph. Burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he can get well regardless of anyone, no matter what they say. The only condition is that he trusts in God and clean house. And guess what Dr. Bob said? And help others. So watch this. We gave you 3 words for recovery. Trust God, that's the first 3 steps. Clean house, step 4 through 11. Help others, step 12. Then we broke it down to 2 words. We said surrender and we said acceptance, right? Now we broke it down to 1 word. All those just merely give you hope. Now, with that being said, I like to draw your attention, because I got places to go, I can't play around. Let's take a look at page 58 and 59. We quote it all the time, but we never take time to read and ponder what it's saying. First paragraph, 58. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path, or in other words, the plan of recovery. Those who do not recover, that means you could, those who do not are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple what? Program. The program is simple. You remember Bill said on page 14? Look at it, stay there, but go to 14 right quick, because I'm going to give you everything you need for the challenge. First paragraph, simple but not easy. A price had to be paid. Why is it simple but not easy? In other words, recovery is hard, but it shouldn't be complicated, right? And a price had to be paid. You remember the Abrahamism? The price is easy to pay if the promise is clearly defined. Look what the price is. It meant destruction of self-centeredness. Why? The opposite of self-centeredness is God-centered. So it's either self-will or God's will. Now, let's go back to page 58. Notice what it says in the second paragraph. I like to call this step 0 because this is the prerequisite before taking step 1. How do I know it? Let's read it for ourselves. If you have decided you want what we have, meaning you made a decision, and are willing to go to any lengths to get it, notice what it's saying, then you're ready. So prior to that, you're not ready. You're ready to do what? Take certain steps. Step 0. Notice what it says next, and it's very interesting. At some of these, we balked. We thought we can find an easier, softer way, but we could not. Why? Page 60. Half measures avail us nothing. So you can't half measure this deal. Either you're in or you're not in at all, right? Because you remember there's no middle of the ground. Now let's look at the numbers. Page XX. I'm still giving you the overview of step one. Step one overview, right? Because after this, we're going to go off into 2XX. Notice what it says. Of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober how soon? At once, and remained that way. Wow. Except 25% sobered up after some relapses. That's why I never say relapses are part of recovery, but people do relapse. That's why we got rarely have we seen a person fail. They shouldn't, but they do. Why? One relapse will kill you. And among the remainder, those who stayed on with AA showed improvement. You mean to tell me the person who wasn't even working on nothing got better because that was group conscious? Other thousands came to a few AA meetings and at first decided they didn't want the program. But great numbers of these, about 2 out of 3, begin to return as time passed. Wow. Talking about results, 75% results. That's result-based right there, evidence-based. Now, let's look at page 568. 568. This will be a great video to show to the newcomer. 568. And let's look at what it says. Last third paragraph, we find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials or the basics to recovery. But these are indispensable, meaning you can't separate them without putting them together. Why? Willingness, simply are you willing to show up and do the work with this challenge? Honesty, will you answer the questions honestly with a simple yes or no? That's how simple it is. And last but not least, open-minded, will you lay aside any prejudice you have, any past experience you had with the program, and check out the results for yourself, because the only thing people respect is results, right? I've been clean and sober for 40 years, and the more I learn, the less I find out I know. So this is a simple thing. Are you going to be honest, open, and willing as we go forth? If not, don't come back. If so, let's keep it moving, right? Now, I'd like to explain my job as the person trying to take you or lead and guide you through this, what you need to do. Look at page 18. Page 18. Page 18. And when we look at 18, we will see the third paragraph. But the ex-problem drinker, notice X. I'm an ex-problem drinker. Why? I've recovered. The ex-problem drinker who has found the solution, I don't talk about the problem no more, who is properly armed with facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Unless such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished. Now watch this. That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he's talking about. I hope you value me as a person that knows what I'm talking about. That his whole deportment shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with a real answer, not a problem. And that he has no attitude of holier than thou. I'm not talking to you from a spiritual mountaintop, because I know when I help you, I help myself. Nothing whatever except a sincere desire to be helpful, that there are no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again. That's what happened to me. Watch this. I'm not a people pleaser. Many people don't like me, but they all respect me because I'm not a people pleaser. I'm going to tell you the truth. Whether you want to deal with it or not, honest, open-minded, willing. Let's go to page 90. I want to show you a few things before we conclude. Page 90. Watch this. Let me see. Look at the top of the page. When you discover a prospect or a sponsee for Alcoholics Anonymous, find out all you can about him. If he does not want to stop drinking, don't waste time trying to persuade him. You may spoil a later opportunity. I didn't say that. The big book did. 94. Go to page 94. 94. Look what it says on page 94. I like to look at the second paragraph, but the last 3 lines. The more hopeless he feels, why? Because recovery is hope, the better. He will be more likely to follow our suggestions because pain is a motivator, right? Now, can we kindly go to page 28? Page 28. Where are we at, Abraham? Page 28. Look what it says. First paragraph. Second, we in our turn sought the same escape with all the desperation of drowning men. Go to page 58 now. We're almost coming home. Go to 58. Notice what it says. Remember I told you step 0? If you have decided you want what we have, look at page 90. Go to the top of page 90. First paragraph. Watch this. When you discover, we read that one. Let's look at the second paragraph on the third paragraph on page 90. Sometimes it's wise to wait till he goes on a binge. The family may object to this, but unless he's in a dangerous physical condition, it is better to risk it. Don't deal with him when he's very drunk, unless he's ugly and the family needs your help. Wait for the end of the spree, or at least for a lucid interval. Then let his family, Then let his family or a friend ask him if he wants to quit for good and if he would go to any extreme to do so. If he says yes, watch this, then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered, right? How can I help you recover if I haven't recovered? Now, page 25. Page 25. I know we're doing a lot of reading, but so what? You ain't got nothing better to do. Let's look at page 25. Let's look at the first paragraph. Look what it says. When therefore, or let's look at the bottom of that paragraph. When therefore we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. Now I want to give you the spiritual tools. I'm going to give you the directions to step 1. Could you kindly go with me to page 30? Second paragraph. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion or game you're running against yourself that we are like other people or presently may be has to be smashed. Now, last place, look at page 33, and let's look at verse 1. Look at the last 3 lines of that page. If we are planning to stop drinking, there must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion that someday we will be immune or cured to alcohol. So here is the first step question on page 30. Do you concede to your innermost self or admit to your innermost self that you're an alcoholic? Yes or no? If you say yes, congratulations, you just completed step 1. If you said no, I challenge you to read the doctor's opinion and all the Bill story again. Look, this has been your big brother in recovery, Abraham, giving you the Sobriety Society International Challenge. Click the like button, subscribe if you haven't, share these videos with your friends. The next video we'll do step 2, and I'm going to give you a surprise this week. Be looking out for it. You're going to get another video about something else that my higher power has laid on my heart since we are all in quarantine. Love you, and nothing you can do about it. Talk to you. Bye.